quick one that's going out right now. It's how would you rate yourself as far as being able to attract and retain talent? So we'll do that and then get rolling from there. Okay, well, we got one more. I think we need to get a poll answered and okay, so we're just going to go with the results that we have right now. Okay, that was weird. Oh. Okay, how's it look on the screen right now?
You're not in presentation.
What, I need to go to slideshow, right?
Right.
Start from beginning.
Yeah.
And it's not going there. Like it just stopped doing it. Can you see the slide?
I can see the slide.
Okay, and the poll results. I'm sorry that something just happened to my PowerPoint where, you know, you go to show this show and it's just staying in the mode of, but you can still see it. So we're just going to go with that right now. The results of the poll were not well at, you know, they're about 33% and okay at 67%. So probably good to, you know, to go through us this morning. So one of the things I want to kind of start with is, and I know this term's been a little bit overused, but there's really been a paradigm shift in being able to attract and retain talent. I think everybody knows and sees on the news that unemployment is running about 3.6%. And like in our area, it's 2.7. So when you look at supply and demand right now, you know, definitely the designers are kind of in the driver's seat. And you know, I think what we need to understand is what's important to them these days. You know, I think everybody's thinking, oh, well, it's just pay, you know, compensation and benefits. But it's a lot more than that. It's really coming down to having a personal connection with the company that they work with and or work for. And you know, I just see it more and more in surveys that they have out there that people are gravitating towards that. It doesn't mean that compensation isn't important. That certainly needs to be there. But now they're looking for more attributes at the company that really relate to them and that they can get behind. So those are some of the things that we need to talk about today to continue to build that culture. If you have any questions as we go through here, there's a little question mark thing on here. Just tap on it and I will open up your mic and you can ask the question. So the whys of your company. I saw this TED Talk with Simon Sinek on there. If you haven't ever seen it, I would very much encourage you to watch it. It sheds some light on really some of the things that we need to focus on as our company, which is Ryco. I worked at for about 30 years. And we came up with two big things. And it's funny because people always ask me, like, you know, what's like one of the most important things of your job, or what do you like the most about it? And I always responded, you know, it wasn't like, you know, making money in these things. It was like building a work environment that people can have fun. It's a positive workplace. It's team oriented. And they can, you know, they're given the tools to be successful. Because I was a firm believer that if people were happy at work, that would spill over into their personal life too. I think we know enough people who don't like where they work and that's all they ever talk about outside of work. So anyway, that was one thing. And the other thing you have to, I guess, look at too is if your people aren't really happy, like let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, they're at a 7. What do you think the customer experience is going to be like? probably not over 7 and probably 5 to 6. So unless we can get them up to the 9 or 10 range, it's really going to limit our ability to really make our customers happy out there. So it's just really important that we build a culture that our people are passionate about, committed to. The other part is, we have to engage in the customers here too, and that's making sure that we're delivering touch points that are creating amazing memories for the customers. So those were really the 2 whys of why we were in business, and we shared those with our people, and I could tell you the response was just fantastic. People could really buy into that, like, hey, they really want to make this a great workplace. And everybody liked to have a great experience. And I was like, well, if you like to have a great experience, shouldn't we provide that for our customers here? And I think everybody kind of like agreed and said, yeah, we should. And that really was the foundation of our company. So if you haven't seen the TED Talk, I think it would be great to not only watch, but maybe share with your people and talk about why you're in company. Obviously, the financial side is, important, and you need to stay viable and profitable. But I think if you get these other things right, that will come. So again, if you have any questions, just raise a hand. So there are leaders and there are those who lead. Leaders hold a position of power and influence. Those who lead inspire us. I really like this quote, and that's why I put it in there. I work with a lot of dealers out there, and it's just funny when I am having conversations with them about how they work with their people. And they, I've heard this, like, I got to get the cattle prod out again and get people going. Sales aren't there. And I was like, wow, that's, if you're using the stick, that might be a temporary fix, but long term, they're probably going to look somewhere else to work. And that's only going to really have a negative impact on your sales. And so, we, again, going through these things as far as the whys and the vision statement, that's what really helps a leader inspire people to want to work there. The fact of the matter is that only about 30% of American workers are really engaged in their work, and that number is getting actually closer to 25%. So think about that like 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 are the only people that really are excited about the business, and that 75% just show up to work. That doesn't have a really great, impact on the customer experience or on the business. And so we've got to learn to get these people on board, and you should be genuine too. I mean, that's the things that you should really kind of focus on moving forward. So let's talk about vision statements. I think one of the funniest things is, it's like one of the first questions I ask a lot of people, do you have a vision statement? And they're like, oh yeah, they're really proud they have it. And then I'm like, well, what is it? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, if you don't know, I wonder if your people know. Not like they came up with it and then they put it on their website and then they threw it in a drawer and it was never brought out again. I was like, that's not the purpose of a vision statement. It's supposed to be ingrained in your company culture 24/7. And if you're never talking about it and you're never like getting everybody else to agree this is what we are all about, it's just a piece of paper. So I put some examples out here of Microsoft and LinkedIn and Google. I worked with a company recently and we came up with their vision statement. I think it was, we want to create amazing memories for our customers and our employees. I thought that was really cool. I mean, that was just theirs. I think vision statements should be very short so people can remember them, but also have a lot of clarity and passion to them. I think people really like when they read something like that, it kind of brings them into the fold and like, I can really get into what this means and what it's doing. So if you haven't done your vision statement or you have one and it's really long, mission statements have kind of gone by the wayside. I'm not saying mission statements are bad, but it's a lot of things to remember. And, people are busy. And if we want to simplify your business and what you're all about. So when you're talking about the culture, it's supported by this vision statement, which is really short. I mean, you should bring it up during team meetings. Just whenever you have an opportunity, you should be talking about it. And I think people will go, well, wow, this is really a centerpiece of our company. And, it's obviously really important. And this is our North Star, which is going to guide us moving forward. So they can be very powerful. And so again, if you don't have one, or you haven't used it a lot, I would really encourage you to kind of get that together, and even bring your people into the meeting to decide what that's going to look like. They'll be happy that they're being able to participate in it. Okay, let's talk about the interview process. This is like one of my favorite parts of this whole webinar, because I think a lot of people, and before we do this, I just remember we're going to run a real quick poll. If you can answer quickly, we can move on. I think the poll is, how would you rate your current interview process? And then we're going to go into this. So the polls are open. Just click on one of them and we'll get rolling. Okay, the results are in. We had 67% that were okay, and 33% rated themselves above okay, which is good. But okay, something is wrong with this thing. Every time you do the poll, it pops out of there. All right, we're learning something new here. I don't know what David did last time, but I'm going to take us to the slide we're at. Okay, here's some of the things that we did at the company before, and I'll tell you why I feel like this is a strong process that people should look at and really make sure that it's part of their business. Because I used to do training for all the newcomers that came in, and just real briefly, I always asked them, I said, why did you decide to come work for us? And the first thing that came out of almost everybody's mouth was they started naming all the touch points that we did before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview. And they were like, wow, this is absolutely one of the companies that I want to work for. So, which is pretty cool. So let's go over some of those things. I don't know how many of you guys have a quick company portfolio, just a little bit about the company, the vision statement, maybe a picture of your people there. Again, we're trying to make a personal connection with them. If you don't have something like that, it doesn't have to be long. It shouldn't be a lot of content. It should just really talk about the culture of your company and what you're trying to achieve with your customers that are out there. It's just a one piece. The second thing that we used to do is when we sent a package out to the potential employee or potential employee that we would FedEx the package out to them. So imagine this, they're thinking about going to work this place. They get a FedEx package. We send it like 2 days. It didn't even cost like $10. And when you get home, if you have a FedEx package there and you have regular mail, what do you typically have a tendency to want to go ahead and open right away? Yeah, it's the FedEx package, because you're like, wow, I must be really important. And okay, I'm taking over the screen here, and I don't need to do that because that's going to be an eyesore for everybody. Hold on one second. Okay. Sorry about this, guys. We're just going to put that up for now and take my ugly mug off. Go back to the other one. Yeah, that's fine. Just that. Okay, good. Now you don't have to see me anymore. This is the added bonus that we've included in this webinar. So in the FedEx package, we put a little information about the company, and we would also put a map in there of where their house was, because we knew what their address was, and then a map quest from their house to our location at the store they were going to interview. So they'd see that and they're like, wow, that's really cool. They put a map in there. I mean, they obviously have GPS, but it's just another, another added touch point. And then we would also include what the interview process was going to be like. Hey, it's going to, this is what's going to be included. It's going to take about an hour and a half. Just a quick outline to kind of set the expectations when they get there. And they're already thinking, this is an amazing company that they would send me a FedEx package with this information before I even showed up. And then our next step during this, and I had a short card and a letter about the interview process covered. We put a sign up at the door, and it would have their name on it. I don't know how many of you guys have one of those. I really like those. We do it for customers and we do it for people interviewing. You can do it. I really like chalk signs because it's more personal, where you just write, it has welcome up there and then their names. And then you also can use that for customers that are coming in the door. I can't tell you how many customers were just excited about that little touch point and actually wanted us to take pictures of them standing next to the sign. It was really kind of an amazing moment to see that. And it had an impact not only on the folks that were interviewing, but also, again, any of your customers coming in there. Take them around during the beginning of the interview process, introduce them to all the people at the location. Certainly you want to let all your folks, so you're interviewing somebody, tell them name, like, hey, Jane is going to be coming in for an interview today. I'm going to have her come around and meet everybody. I think, again, this all relates back to that personal connection and, making it kind of a more family-like atmosphere, I guess, is really what we're shooting for. Have a list of questions that you would like to ask. You never want to go off like a check-off list and like, oh, I want to ask this, I want to ask this, I want to ask this. It's more of just a reference sheet that you want to kind of review before the interview so that you know it well, but you can always look down and see if you missed anything. What the most important things that you want to kind of talk to them about. But it needs to be a real light environment and atmosphere so that they open up and you can kind of learn more about them and they can learn more about you. And then the other thing I think is important to take notes. Anytime you're talking or anybody's talking and someone's writing down notes, I think it makes that person feel important, that they're saying something that needs to be written down. So that's kind of a really quick summary of the during. So you've got the before, which you've already set the tone. It's a great tone. You have this great, during process that's out there that makes them even feel better about it. They've seen their name on the sign. They got to meet everybody. It was a great interview process. Now they're halfway home, and they're pretty sold that if it was a package that's close to what they're looking for, that, hey, this might be their new home. And then the last part is, sending a follow-up call or a follow-up email or card to them, I think is a great way to let them know that you're still thinking about them. You should use this interview process for everybody, because even if you don't decide to hire them, I can tell you that the designer world is a close-knit type of community, and they talk among themselves. We've tried to hire somebody for a business in our area, and we've had a really difficult time because of, kind of the reputation they've had, and they've had a lot of turnover, and I've really tried to work with them to change that. But, when we mentioned it to people, potential employees, they're like, oh, no, I probably don't want to work there. And that is not a good thing. I'm not saying anybody's there, but that was just one situation. The next time they come in, I think it's important to schedule some time with one or two other employees to meet with them, because you really want to get buy-in from your team. When they say, hey, we really like this person too, and you like them, and they're like, I think you should move forward with them, Well, now they put their stamp of approval on there. And when those people come in, they want to make sure they're successful. They didn't want to put their name on the line and then that person failed. So it gives them a little added incentive to make sure that they're helping that person out as much as possible. Plus, it really gives them a good feeling of, hey, I'm important here. I was helping make the decision on who we're hiring and whether they fit into our culture. So I think that's a good thing. And then lastly is obviously reference checks. I'm sure everybody does that, but I really think that's an important thing, just to check with other people and ask sometimes they can't tell you anything. The one question you can ask that they can answer is, would you hire that person again? And if the answer is no, that's kind of a big red flag. So, okay, let's go on to the next one here. Hold on. All right, we're really having some issues here with this thing today. I apologize about that. So we've always talked about customer touch points, which deliver memories to them. But we also have to make sure that we're focusing on employee touch points, which is, delivering them and then making sure that they are creating great memories for the employees too. So I've just put some bullet points up there. The first one is every communication that you have with them, whether it's written or verbal, is setting an impression on them. They are remembering these things. And let me try to explain it another way, that, if you have interactions with a person or a business or whatever, and you had like 9 good experiences and then 1 bad experience, human nature is that we typically remember that bad experience and don't spend as much time on the other 9, which is, it's sad, but it's true. So we need to make sure that, we're communicating in a very positive way. And I see a lot of managers or leaders out there that are communicating with people, but it's not exactly in the right way. And what happens is that the other person starts really focusing on how it was communicated and not what the message was. So even if it's something that's not so positive, I think we can assure them that we're telling them these things to help out. And that's really what our aim is. And as long as they believe it, I think they're going to be a lot more open to listening to those things. But, saying good morning to everybody. I know managers just walk by their people in the morning, go straight to their office. I'm like, what? And then, other ones leaving in the evening, they just head out and don't say a word. And I think you need to get up from your desk every once in a while, walk around, just say, hey, how are things going? I know everybody's busy, but this is important. This is part of creating that work environment and that culture. It's always a day-to-day interaction with the leaders. Performance management process. I've heard a lot of these team meetings out there, when they bring everybody in, it's always about the numbers. They talk about product updates, the numbers, and none of the time is spent on culture or the customer experience. And that's like that's like the bottom line for your company, that you want to try to create that. So it needs to be talked about at meetings that you have out there. And, and the part about the positive work environment, that is your goal. And, ask people, hey, how are things going? How much do you enjoy working here? That's kind of a crazy question, I guess. But, I think people will be kind of like, yeah, you're going to gauge by their answers. If they're like, I love it here, this is awesome. And then I think you're probably onto something and you've done some really right things for your company. So let's go to the next one. On meetings with the staff, what is the purpose? And like I was just talking about, is it just to talk about the numbers and update them on processes and products, or is it more than that? I think really the goal is that we want these people to be able to talk and share their thoughts about things that they think they can improve, things that are going on. But at the end of the meeting, they should be, oh God, another meeting. Yeah, we wasted an hour. I'll never get back in my life. That should never be the way they view it. They should look forward to these things and hopefully be inspired by them. When you start talking about how they've been able to wow customers, like, hey, who really went above and beyond this week? Why don't you share it with the group? Those are important things that kind of reinforce what you're trying to do with the culture. So again, I think talking about these things, encouraging people to talk about these things are really important and how you can improve your culture. The last part I just want to mention is that everybody is responsible for the culture, not just the leaders. So you need to have a high level of participation in these meetings and not just the leader talking the whole time. So that is enough on that side of it. And I think let's see, we're at about 30, we were at about 25 minutes. There's a lot to talk about. So I hope you got some good pointers out of here, but I'd love to answer any questions that you have right now. So if you'd like to, just hit the question mark on your little webinar thing, and would love to talk to you. Okay, don't be shy. Julia, you have to have a question. We talked before. Anybody? Daniel? Luke? Marcella? Okay. Julia, thank you. You need to unmic yourself. You're self-muted right now. There you go. Hey, are you there?
I am.
So, what do you think and what questions do you have?
Earlier you had mentioned TED Talks. What is that?
Okay, so a TED Talk, these are great things to watch. You can go out to TED Talks on the internet, and they have like thousands of different TED Talks, and they're always less than 20 minutes long. TED is education and design and technology. That's what it stands for, I think. But Simon Sinek is Simon, and then the last name is Sinek. And they have a variety of different subjects out there, and I think it's an awesome resource. So go check it out. I like to watch those things a lot. Some of them are only 10 minutes long.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, when he talked about the whys, it was really good. It kind of like, wow, that's powerful stuff. Anybody else? Go ahead and open some of the other mics. Luke, did you have anything? I know you're there, Luke. Luke? Your mic's open. Marcella?
Or work for highest customer service again.
And Consumer Cellular has been an approved AARP provider since 2008, so we trust them. Reliable nationwide coverage.
Okay. So that opened their mic, and I think they had something else going on. Okay, any other questions before we finish up here? I think if you have a huge plus in trying to incorporate some of these things into your culture and into your interview process, and I think it would be, a huge asset for your company, building this type of culture that, again, keeps people around and attracts other ones in the industry. All right, anything else?
I guess I have a question.
Please.
I guess you talked about, not the meetings not always being about numbers and leading to inspire, but what if your staff is just not doing what they're supposed to be doing? How do you keep inspiring them at the same time where you have to be, constantly badgering them to do their job?
Right. So when you say do their
Not you.
job, you're talking about performance on the sales side?
Yeah,
Well, and look, I don't want to ignore the numbers. They are absolutely, an important part of your business. And I think you need to spend some time on there. But some of the reason why people aren't performing is that they're not engaged in business. And they need to be, and they need to have something that they can follow and be passionate about. Because if they're not doing their jobs, that's a true sign that they're not engaged. And secondly, that they're probably not really doing an excellent job on their customer service side of it too. Because if they
right.
were, sales would be growing. So one of the things that you can discuss is like go around the room, like, hey, we're not where we need to be in sales. Why do you think that is? And a lot of them will say, oh, it's product price. And like, well, everybody has a lot of similar products and price out there. So let's look internally and among ourselves what we can do differently to